Catalyst.io.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Barkoff. I am obviously I show Chief Cold Bear Officer, but I'm so fortunate and so excited to be here with Jordan Knight and CaDarius from the Sober Bartender. And before I welcome these guys and have them kind of kick things off, obviously, guys, thanks for making the time. Thanks for being here. This. Yeah, of course. This podcast, I started as part of my sobriety journey, and it really explores the intersection of business and sobriety. And kind of whether you're an entrepreneur or a corporate executive or kind of anywhere in between, if you're in the business world and, you're going through some struggles, usually, with addiction, which is a big highlight for this. There's a lot that goes with that, right? And so, this particular, during our time together, we're going to talk about challenges, the wins that you guys have had, the setbacks, the breakthroughs, everything that comes with, what you guys are doing in your daily journey as it relates to whatever you guys, whatever is important to you. I think. Before I turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves, this is not something that you have to do alone. It's something, it's a Herculean effort to stay sober, and it requires, your family and your friends and your coworkers and things like that. So we're going to be jumping into a lot of topics, but again, guys, thanks for being here. CaDarius, why don't we kick off with you? Just introduce yourself, and we'll get going.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name is CaDarius, born and raised here in Memphis, Tennessee. Grew up kind of not around alcohol. And so from there, graduated high school and then really got into the party scene through college. It was really a wild ride. I tried to get sober a couple of times. Primarily when I was 21, there was a very bad breakup I went through. And so,
And you were 21 like 2 weeks ago, right?
no, appreciate that. No, that's been probably 13 years ago, honestly.
Wow. All right. Well,
And so
age and beauty has been good to you, my friend.
appreciate that. But no, it's been a wild ride. I've been working in nonprofit my entire career, and just really like to create safe, fun environments for everybody. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. So yeah,
Awesome. Great to have you here, CaDarius. Appreciate it.
thanks.
Jordan.
Yeah, so my name is Jordan Knight. I'm excited to be on the show, so thanks for having us. Um, so my sobriety story really started after my divorce. So 2 years or a year ago, um, almost to the day, I got the word from my wife that we were separating, and I dug really deep into alcohol. I dove really deep into alcohol. Um, to the point that a morning in September, I found myself waking up and a puddle of my own throw up and saying, "Man, something has to change." Um, it was a tough moment. It was a tough realization. Standing up, looking in the mirror, and saying, "This isn't who I want to be." So since September 19th, I've been sober. Um, keep track of that on my phone. Lean on friends heavily. CaDarius has been one of those guys that's been there and kept my head on straight. So it was easy whenever we started thinking through this business on who I wanted to bring in with me, and so that's why we're here today.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are both here. Like I said, I'm really grateful. And again, this is really all about you guys. Let's start with kind of the obvious question: the sober bartender. Tell me, about it. Tell me how it was born. Tell me, was it an inside joke. You guys were like, "Oh man, let's start something that because I think as I told you the other day, Jordan, when we were kind of going back and forth and communicating, I think it's the most brilliant kind of two words you could use to kind of describe a business. And whatever you guys are doing, I'm very curious to hear about it, and looking forward to diving in. So let's start with the Sober Bartender, and how was it born, and tell us
I
everything.
think we were, I think we were texting back and forth,
We
Jordan,
were.
right?
We were. And so we were texting back and forth just so I'm looking for a job currently, and thought to myself, like, why do I have to go back to a 9 to 5? Why do I have to be back in the business world in order to be considered successful? And how can I make a difference in something that I genuinely believe in? And that's where I found myself. So as we started spitballing ideas back and forth, um,
How many ideas did we have before we landed on this one?
we probably had at least 10 ideas, just thinking of some ways that we could, capitalize on friendship and capitalize on
Yeah.
just making a difference in the world with something that's fun to do. And so I started thinking back into my career as a marketer. My background is in marketing, and um, I thought specifically to the event space, specifically to the weddings that I've been to, specifically to um, all of the events throughout the years, that if you're standing there without a drink in your hand, you stand out in all the wrong ways.
Hmm.
Um, and it feels uncomfortable, especially for me as someone who has had before 6 months ago had the drink in my hand. I
Interesting.
felt like I was standing out there. And so we thought, how do we look at that, and how do we bring an inclusive experience to where no matter where you're at in your journey, whether you're the sober driver for the night, whether you're pregnant, whether you're 4 years into a sobriety journey, how do you feel included in the night? How does that drink in your hand feel just as special as the one that's a handcrafted cocktail next to you? And that's where it was born.
So tell me a little bit about what is the Sober Bartender. Let's simplify it down to exactly what the business is, what you got, what your purpose is, your mission.
Yeah, so the mission of the Sober Bartender is to craft a drink for every choice. And so what we want to do is, no matter where you find yourself, that you have a drink that can be for your experience. And so we are, at its core level, a bartending service that offers non-alcoholic options as well.
So if I'm a company in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm a sober CEO. I'm a CEO of a very successful company. I've been sober for 20 years. I'm throwing a Christmas party. I want to have, there's people on my team that still drink alcohol, and there's also folks that I've hired into my staff, that my team, that is also in some type of sobriety program. So I want to provide that. How would I engage with the Sober Bartender? Would I call you guys? Would you guys? Is it a service? Is it products? Like how would I work with you?
Yeah, so for launch, we are specifically in the Memphis, Tennessee area. We expand that out and are throughout Tennessee.
Okay.
However, for its initial phase, we are looking at keeping it regional and then looking at possibly expanding from there as we hire additional employees. So we have a website that's soberbartender901.com where
Okay.
people can go and explore our options. They can look at some of the handcrafted drinks that we have, and they can book us for their weddings, events, anything where they want to create an inclusive space for everyone.
This is amazing. So basically, it's a full service where you guys come to an event and you provide basically a full, cocktail bar or mocktail bar in your case, And in this particular, it's basically premium beverages experience tailored to the event. I would assume you guys work with whoever is the event host to maybe craft signature drinks. Do you guys also have your own products that you're planning on bringing to market as well, or is this something that you're just going to be providing more as a service to start? And I see CaDarius smiling, so maybe I'm onto something here. Or, again, don't want you guys to get too far ahead and share too much. If there's something that you guys don't want to share, please do. But obviously, I think this is a massive opportunity, and I think you guys know that. And I think, Jordan, that's why I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, when we first connected, it was just such a brilliant idea.
Can I take this one, Jordan?
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, you asked a lot of great questions, and you saw me lighten up when you
I
asked those
did.
specific products that people can buy from us. I think that's the fun part about this business. Just being able to think outside of the box when it comes down to mocktails or just like a non-alcoholic beverage. Um, a little bit about my experience. When I started to try to get sober, I still wanted to be in the scene, go out, have a fun
Sure.
time. And so I was limiting myself to soda water with lime because it kind of looks like a tequila Sprite or a tequila like a lighter drink,
Sure.
and it gives you that buzz and be strong, but it's boring, it's bland. And so there is a menu that we are curating, trying to figure out what tastes good, what doesn't, how can we heighten this experience. Not really ready to share too many details about that.
Absolutely not. No,
So
no.
kind of want to keep those close to the chest, but we have had, we could talk about the three drinks that we kind of came up with the last event.
Absolutely.
I think the favorite for this last event that we did, we called it Strawberry Skies. It's a nice blend of strawberry and coconut. And I automatically think about being on the beach, with the
Mm.
sunset, and it's just nice, crisp. It could be 75 and humid, or it can be 75 and sunny and breezy, and you're still going to have the same enjoyable experience. Um, what was the other one we did, Jordan? I forget that name.
Yeah, the other one that we did was the Tropical Rewind.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
And so
Um,
it was another island drink, primarily ginger and pineapple on that one. And that
Yum.
mhm.
That
ginger
sounds
beer
really good.
gave you that kick in the back of your throat that you would expect from a cocktail
Love
while
that.
drinking something completely non-alcoholic.
But
And so drinkers and non-drinkers alike really did love those options. And as a current drinker, I'm thinking of ways to tweak the recipe so that it can go across the board for everyone's experience.
it's really interesting, guys. I know a lot of guys in sobriety, and I've had a number of conversations about this where you know they go to their corporate, celebrations, Christmas parties, event holidays, things like that, and I know a lot of guys and gals that um, they actually they don't want to mix their sobriety life with their corporate life, which is
Mm.
kind of the kind of leads me to my first topic as it relates to to the sober bartender and things like that. There happens to be this, at least that I'm finding in my many years of working in the corporate world. There's just this like pressure around perfectionism in business and just constant, I guess, focus on just judgment of your peers and things like that. And so when I talk to like folks in sobriety program, they're like, oh, I got my Christmas party coming up, and well, what are you gonna do? Oh, well, I'm not gonna drink, but I am gonna like fake it. And so a lot of these guys actually they drink, to your point, CaDarius, they drink lemonade and soda water or something that looks, and it's in a cocktail glass that actually looks like they're drinking a cocktail, and then a lot of these folks actually act the part of almost being drunk because they kind of want to hide that because there's this pressure. What's your kind of opinion on kind of the profession, like the pressure of perfectionism in the corporate world, in business, and how that relates to kind of your sober journey? And how do you feel about that? Is that something that you guys think about, you talk about with folks? That's something that you don't even pay attention to? Just curious.
Man, so I think we'd be lying if we said we weren't perfectionists because we as many drinks as we made trying to get these recipes right. I I really I think that we couldn't can't kid ourselves there, but no, there's absolutely a pressure to be all things to all people, especially in fields like sales and marketing. It becomes almost an expectation that you're going to stay out with people after the sales kickoff meetings.
Mm.
You're going to hit the happy hours with people. That you're going to continue to be all things for all people at all times. And I think what we're trying to address is yes, you can still go to those events, but we're trying to talk to the people who are forming those events about inclusivity, um, particularly around those that don't drink. Statistics are coming out that um, like millennials spent $23 billion in alcohol in 2024,
Holy
whereas
shit.
Gen Z only spent 3 billion in that. So Gen Z is not drinking. There's a whole crowd of people that are coming up that need an alternative choice. And if we can be someone to provide that, that's what we want to be and hope that this idea catches on.
Why do you think that is, Jordan? Why do you think there's such a a massive delta in between these? Like, why do you think that is? Do you think it's just the age? Do you think it's the generation? Do you think it's just the pressures? Do you think it's something else? Have you ever sat to maybe even consider why that is?
You know, Kadarius, you may have ideas on this further than
Yeah.
I do, but I mean, I don't know per se what the reason is, but it was pretty consistent between 20 and 23 million from boomers, Gen X, millennials, and then a significant drop off with Gen Z. And
Wow.
so I think it could be the introduction of other products. It could be the introduction that they're dealing with those vices with nicotine, with THC products as it legalizes. But they're,
Interesting.
they're looking outside of that traditional cocktail.
Well, we could certainly get into a totally separate conversation on like what
Yeah.
even folks that I know in sobriety that they go from one addiction to the other. Like, some folks leave alcohol and then they go to marijuana or some type of, drug of in that family. Others that I know have tobacco issues. They still smoke. I know so many guys that have this fucking Zen problem, and it's just absolutely insane. Like, so it's
Yeah.
like we go from one thing to the next, right? And that's a totally separate thing around like addiction and things like that. That's just the addictive mind, right? But yeah, that's very very interesting. Kadaris, did you have anything that you wanted to kind of add to that?
Yeah. So as you were asking the question, my mind kind of went to the idea of professionalism and what does that look like when you incorporate alcohol in that? And why do we even
Mm,
incorporate alcohol in the first place? As individuals inside and outside of the workspace. And for me personally, alcohol is that turn off switch to where I don't have to be professional. I'm thinking of Severance, to where there's a work, a life, and then there's a professional life. And then when you go to these parties, they kind of intertwine a little bit. It's a party, there's alcohol, and so my mind automatically thinks that I can be the Kadarius that I am outside. However, professional culture tells me, no, 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 not too much. You have to maintain a level of professionalism. You have to look the part. And I think so many millennials have spent their lives, me being included, spent their lives trying to be the part that they lost themselves and they allow themselves to get lost with alcohol.
yeah, that's a
Same
big
thing.
that's a big point. There's such a pressure to be accountable in your corporate job, right? You have to show
Hmm.
up for meetings. You have to do your research. You have to send, prep emails and follow up emails and
Hmm.
communications and get your executive team involved. All sorts of fucking accountability that's like completely, and then like oh, let's just go to a bar after this and just completely shit can, and everything completely goes out the door. You're there with the customer. I know so many guys in the sobriety world that have been fired from their corporate jobs because of how they showed up and how they behaved in front of the customer, or they showed up drunk to work, or I mean, just the level. It's just almost like it's the irony in terms of like accountability almost goes out the door, and I still struggle to kind of understand why that is. Yet it is so it is such a core aspect to the corporate world, right? And it's like you're almost I know folks that I talk to all the time, and they feel so much pressure to have to drink or to have to be in the moment and have a some type of glass in their hand with whether it be wine or hard alcohol or whatever. It's just really interesting, and that's really why I like talking about this particular subject, because there's so many different directions you can go into.
And
Um,
with, I was gonna say, feeling the pressure to drink with the sober bartending service, you can have something that looks like a cocktail, and you have the choice at that moment to either celebrate sobriety and say, actually, it's not. It's a really good, refreshing drink. You should try it. Or you can say, yeah, it's whatever. You can live the narrative of pretending to drink and nobody ever knows it.
Interesting. So what are so at some of the events that you guys have already done, what's been the response? Like tell me a little bit about like what folks are saying to you, and it's like it's gotta be fucking amazing. Like people must be coming up to you and being like, "Oh my God, I fucking wish that I thought of that." Like I'll guarantee it, right? So like what are folks saying to you? Like what's been the feedback? Like what have you guys learned? And also kind of what are you guys doing what are some of the mistakes that you guys made early on that you've kind of started to kind of work on already?
So I think my favorite response so far has been girl picked up strawberry skies, took a drink at the bar, and said, "Wow, this actually tastes good."
Oh, she thought
Yeah.
she thought it was a drink?
Because she thought that it was going to be, another mocktail that's gonna be, subpar. That's not gonna taste good. But we had taken the time. We put fresh ingredients in it. We really spent time crafting that drink to where it was
Mm,
gonna taste delicious for them. Um, and so it actually tastes good was one of my favorites. But it's been interesting to see people. The response has been that. The response has been people will sneak in a mocktail between their drinks to make sure that they
Mhm,
can pace themselves throughout the night,
mhm.
oh, interesting.
and make sure that they're able to drive home under the legal limit. It's just been really cool to see people respond in a way that's responsible, um, and is just easy for them to make that choice.
Yeah, that's great. And have you had folks come up to you that are actually in some type of sobriety program and talk to you about like, God, this is amazing, and man, I wish I wish I've had this elsewhere. Have you ever had that experience?
I don't think we've had that yet. I think,
You will though.
mm, yes, probably. I think the closest thing that we've had, we were working a networking event for wedding and event planners, and this
Mm.
lady came up to that I knew previously. She came up to me. She was like, "Oh my gosh, so nice to see you. What do we have at the bar?" And I was telling her about Strawberry Skies, Tropical Rewind, and some other options that we had, and she was like, "Which one is the non-alcoholic option?" And
Love
I
it.
hadn't seen this woman in years. And so
Huh.
I'm like, I remember you from back when. Well, what's going on? And then I looked down and there's a baby bump. And I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. Yes, you have an option. So she was sober for reasons to bring in a child. But it was just really cool to see how she was able to partake that night without just being limited to water and juice. But yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, let's kind of talk a little bit about what you know what is success. I want to kind of make this a two-parter. First of all, as it relates to the sober bartender specifically, like what success look like for you guys over the next couple of years, and kind of what are your goals? What are you like? Is it, to go raise a bunch of funding and like blow this thing out and, go into a bunch of different cities and franchise and things like that? Or is it, coming up with, a series of products that you can build? Or is it like what does success look like for you guys? And and then we'll kind of switch gears to kind of what does success look like in your opinions, in business, running a sober life, and what does that look like to you? So let's start with Sober Bartender, and then we'll switch gears to kind of talk a little bit more broadly.
Jordan,
Yes.
do we have a yearly plan yet?
Yeah, so in terms of
Okay.
yearly plans, the goal is to get at least 2 events per month. That helps us to stay afloat, make sure that we have all the funding that we need there.
You're
Um,
bootstrapping, yeah?
exactly. Just
That's awesome.
getting ready to lay the foundation for what is a successful business. We have a partnership with a local events venue
Okay.
who is wanting to bring us in for a lot of their events, which is great. We additionally um, have quite a few weddings on the table that have been our main source. So leveraging relationships in that year one to get a clientele and get our name out there. That's why we donated our services to the event for the Memphis wedding planner event. So doing things like this to try to get our name established in year one. As
Okay.
we look beyond that, sorry, my daughter just came
That's
through.
okay.
Um, as as we look beyond that, um, I think the initial phase one of expansion, and we've talked about this a little bit, would be to be able to buy a truck that we could
Hmm.
bring these our mocktails out into the public, bring them to parks on refreshing days, bring them out to corporate marketing or events, all of these type
Festivals.
festivals.
You could do
Exactly.
festivals. You could do concerts. Fuck, man. You guys
Yeah.
could there's all sorts of cool shit. Because I'll guarantee you, man, a lot of people are it's becoming a much bigger conversation more than ever. I mean, folks are really starting to realize that, alcohol is the new cigarette. And it's that's
Mm.
really really cool. Are you guys going to be partnering with some of the brands that are like coming out with this? Like, there's a lot of interesting new products out there. A lot of Lion's Mane products. I don't really know much about it, to be honest, guys. I was doing some research. There's a company called Smashed, which is a non-alcoholic cocktail. Kind of looks like comes in a little kind of skinny can, and it's got all sorts of different flavors. So are you guys gonna do that? Or are you guys planning on going down your own sober bartender route and kind of come out with your own products? And Darius is smiling again, so maybe I'm onto something here.
You're always onto something, Matt. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think right now we're focusing on building out a menu that we can solidly rotate throughout events, as well as branding. We're using different social media platforms, getting our name out there, building the website so that we can get more traction and hopefully more business through that. Uh, I would love one day to have a partnership through those ventures. I would also really, really love if we were able to create our own cocktail that turned into a six pack, 12 pack,
Mm.
all of those ideas do sound really, really cool. Um, and something to like think about, plan towards. Absolutely. Um, it sounds like you have some great ideas. Maybe we need to meet offline and have a brainstorming session. But
That'll be
yeah,
after we
Jordan.
adjourn. We got plenty to talk about, man. I love this.
Okay.
I love this.
Jordan, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And anything as simple as providing um, cocktail mocktail mixes that people can, add club soda to and drink at their house. Things that are simple, shelf stable. All of those are great. Down the pipeline, that's probably a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, if we're being honest with ourselves. But with the right ideas, and I think we're onto something here. Um, and people have received it well. So I think that people are looking for options, and if we can be the ones to provide that, why not?
Jordan, I was even thinking about maybe like some farmer markets here in town, like as a soft lunch for something like that. That could be cool.
Well, I can tell you guys that here in Portland, there's a shit ton of food trucks like all over the place. It's like this is like the eating capital, man. There's so many good places to eat around here,
I don't know
and
about that. I think that might be Memphis.
I
oh,
miss.
okay,
No, I can tell
that's
you,
fair.
I moved from Portland to Memphis. I can tell you, I miss the food trucks there.
All right, all
Oh,
right.
okay,
Although
okay.
I will say, Memphis is a killer place to get like good eats, man. Like you're
Yeah.
100% right. You're 100% right, Kadarius. Well, guys, look, is there any other kind of areas you guys want to like talk about specifically with the sober bartender as it relates to kind of your journey? Um, whether it's, Jordan, you talked a little bit about kind of, your sobriety journey coming into this when you hit your rock bottom, which I appreciate. It takes a lot of courage to talk about that. I've had a number of those in my life. Obviously, I wish I got sober a lot earlier than 51. But it's better late than never, right? Is there anything else you guys want to like talk about at this point, or anything else before we let you guys kind of plug on Sober Bartender and we finish up?
Yeah. I kind of like the way you frame sobriety as being a journey, because that's exactly what it is. There's some ups and some downs. The thing that's been the most opportunity for growth for me is realizing how mindfulness plays into sobriety. Um, Being mindful of how where my mind is,
Hmm.
um, before, during, and after alcohol. Um, how my body feels
Yeah.
before, during, and afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, in January, that was my first 31 days of not drinking after like on and off again, 2 weeks here, 3 weeks here. That was
Are
like
you
my
still
full first
are
a
you
month.
are you still sober right now, or did you drink again?
Uh,
It's okay. No
so
judgment. I'm just saying,
no,
like, yeah.
no, I've taken a drink here and there.
Okay.
And so January was my first test of like, all right, let's see if we can actually do this.
Can I
Or,
do this?
eh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
do I need more community along with me, or can I quit? You know what I'm saying? And so proving that to myself, uh, I don't know, it was one of those peak of the moments thing. But
Sure.
then I went
Sure.
to a party like on the 4th to the 5th of February, and I was like, all right, time to celebrate, and broke sobriety. And those next 3 or 4 days, I was like, what happened? I was talking about being mindful. My mind wasn't as sharp. I was very sluggish.
Hmm.
Mental health was taking a hit, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. My body
Yeah.
literally can't do this anymore. I'm not even talking about it was like a 3 or 4 day hangover.
Wait till
It
you're
felt like.
50.
Uh,
Wait
what did
till
you say?
wait till you're old like me.
So I'm 35, and so it's about that time where you're waking up out of bed and you're like,
Trade
"Oh,
you.
that didn't feel that way." Fair, fair. And so I don't want to be 50 and then like trying to still get sober, right? And so here I am trying to make that move, but it I keep finding that when we do these events, there's an urge there to take a drink just to take the hit off or to taste
Mm.
what it looks like.
Pressure. It's the pressure of being there and kind of
Yes,
being around it and seeing like, it's a very, very hard thing to do. I mean, there's this constant, pressure to be there with everybody else, and it's like almost, are you going to
involved.
be? Is it going to be frowned upon? Are you going to be judged? Like, there's so much to that, and I mean, it does take a lot, but I think once you get to that point, I want to hear from you, Jordan, on this subject as well, because I'm sure you have something to. But it's really really good that you brought this up, and I'll kind of finish up after Jordan, after you kind of give your 2 cents on this.
Yeah, no, and I mean, mental health plays or alcohol plays a huge role with my mental health. I had someone just this last week ask me why I quit drinking
Mm.
because I was always the person who loved to drink. I grew up without alcohol in my house. However, when all of us turned 21, we all started drinking together. When all of the kids, and so um, throughout the years, I wrote it off as no big deal. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't until I hit that low phase in my life that was 2024 that it really it became a crutch, and it became something
A
that
dependency, like,
it
it
was.
was something that you literally couldn't live without because you were doing it so much, or
No, it was just something that when I would drink because I was feeling sad, and it did nothing but make me feel more sad, more depressed. It brought
uh-huh.
me lower. It brought me deeper into that dark place. And
Sure.
so, I mean, it is a depressant. So it is what it is. So, um, no, I totally understand where you're coming from, Kadarius. That that mental impact that alcohol plays on you is often underplayed and can really heighten negative emotions if they're already present.
Yeah, I think well, personally, guys, considering my many decades of struggling with drugs and alcohol, I certainly can be, speaking from my own experience, strength and hope, right? Is um, when you are doing all these different chemicals and substances, and whether it's alcohol or some other, whatever, and then on top of that, in my case, I might be taking something for my mental health on top of that. It's just all that shit gets into your brain, and it's just this big, massive tornado of
Yep.
emotions and feelings and pain
Yep.
and what's crazy is that when we initially drink, you always kind of hear this like, oh, there's just this like blissful experience when you first take a drink. Those first 20 minutes, it's awesome, but it's literally the rest, of the time that you actually have to like, keep, fueling the monster. And then when you're recovering from it, you're having to deal with all of the consequences that come from that, whether it's feeling like shit, or being
Literally.
hungover, or being in trouble with your wife or your significant other because you acted like an idiot, drinking, or you hurt somebody, you killed somebody driving, you got a DUI. So um, it really the benefits of of usage of something are not even close to what the consequences can be as a result of doing those things. And I think, guys, it really is about, there is no one way to operate a sobriety program. That's the beauty of this. It's
Mm.
everybody has their own unique journey in terms of what they do. In my case, I go to meetings, right? I do a meeting every single day. I have a sponsor. I work the steps. Like, those are things that I choose to do. And Jordan, you might have a totally different way of doing things. Kadarius, you're still trying to figure out what's right for you. There is no one way of doing things, and that's the beauty of this program. But I think we all agree that it's better, not using. It's better to be sober and mentally cleansed and all those cool things that come with that, because um, I do feel like the rewards as a result of sobriety are going to have already provided me with massive things that I have done, like starting this podcast. I never thought I would do that in sobriety, right? I started a company a couple of years back called Cold Bear Plunge, which is why you have Chief Cold Bear. So all these things happen for a reason, but when you're constantly under the influence of some drug or alcohol or what have you, it's hard to function. You can't function. So yeah, no, this is all good. Well, guys, I will let you guys kind of take maybe kind of spend 30 seconds and give your little plug and your website. I know you've mentioned it earlier, but let's do that again. And, you know, if you guys have an Instagram page and you guys have a Facebook page, you know, please promote it. And even if you guys have like an email, like, let's make sure that, you guys share that information so that folks can get in touch with you, and then we'll go ahead and wrap.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, exactly what you said is why the Sober Bartender was created, is because we want to give people the option that if they choose to take the path of sobriety, that they can in an unjudged way, and just give them that freedom back. So if you want to send us a message, if you want to follow us on Instagram, that is Sober Bartender 901, the area code for Memphis, Tennessee.
Love it.
Or soberbartender901.com, and there's a form on the page where you can fill it out. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear about your sobriety story, hear about anything cool that you have, like a t-shirt idea. There's things to come on that front that speak to you, and so feel free to connect with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Guys, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your honesty and your transparency, and just, you guys are just fucking amazing. I think it's so awesome what you guys are doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing your journey and kind of where you guys go with this. I think it's a slam dunk, you know, grand slam, home run, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I think you guys really have something that is like super special. And I think once the word gets out and you guys start going into different cities and towns and events and weddings and bar mitzvahs and concerts and all sorts of shit, like, I'm telling you guys, say it again. This is gonna fucking, like, this is gonna take off. I mean, and you guys know it, right? You can just kind of see it in your eyes. You can hear it in your voice. So, guys, I really thank you for coming on, and you know, giving us your time and your guidance and your vision on where you're going. And I wish you guys all the best. Really
Appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Matt.
All right, guys. Thanks again, and we're gonna go ahead and end this, and take care, y'all.
I never get lonely. I got these goals to keep me company. I took the rear view off, but it's so forward, so I only see in front of me. Now the past is out of sight.